My next guest is Sarah Thomas, PhD. Sarah is an educator, regional tech coordinator, and the affiliate faculty at Loyola University in Maryland. Sarah has been working also with Edumatch. She is the founder of Edumatch, which is a project that empowers educators to make global connections across common areas of interest. She has spoken and presented internationally, participated in the technical working group to refresh the 2017 ISTE standards for educators, and is a recipient of the 2017 ISTE Making It Happen Award. She is a co-author of the ISTE Digital Equity Series, Closing the Gap. Welcome to the podcast, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Dana. I'm so happy to be here. So thank you for having me on today.
Well, tell me about a time when you were in the trenches as an educator and how you managed to crawl out of those trenches.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started, then I came to the field from a different background. I was a radio, TV, film major in undergrad. And so I came through alternative certification. My mom started teaching when I was in undergrad, and I figured that this is where I really want to be, but I already had all of my credits done for radio, TV, film. So I started immediately thereafter. I stumbled upon a flyer that was hanging on the wall looking for teachers for a nearby district. So there was a summer session that kind of gave us some pedagogical foundations, and we worked with students in the in summer school. However, me being young and impatient at the time, then instead of waiting for them to reach out and find a good fit, I decided to venture off on my own and make my own connection to a school. So I applied, and needless to say, that very first year was not a great fit for me. It was very difficult. The second and third year were also challenging. The fourth year, I would say, started to get better because I had a principal who saw leadership capacity in me, and she put me in a leadership role for the very first time. And that started to kind of repair the way that I was seeing myself, because I didn't have very high self-esteem when it came to my teaching as a result of those first few rocky years. But then I ended up going to a four schools in 5 years. And no, I'm sorry, this was the third school, and that third school was a charm. So that was year 4. So 3 schools in 4 years. So that fourth school was a charm. My principal was a multiplier. I don't know if your listeners have read the book, The Multiplier Effect, but really she saw something in me, and she trusted me to just do what I could, and to use my strengths to help all the students in the building as well as the educators. And I really felt like I was part of something. I started seeing myself differently. I started working with our district tech team. They had different initiatives, so I started applying for those to get more PD for myself. And I started connecting. I found my PLN a few years afterwards, and it was all because I was in a space where I felt comfortable to take those small risks to improve myself and improve my practice. So it's really thanks to the leaders that I worked with, and they helped me to see myself as a leader.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great story to start out with. And I had a similar experience my first year that probably wasn't the best fit. And you get like you dig yourself that hole, right? You dig yourself in the trenches, and you as a new educator, if you have a student teaching experience that's in a school that's vastly different from where you end up starting to teach, that makes a huge difference. And also sometimes you don't have that network of colleagues that are around you when you're starting as a new teacher, and they always assign a mentor teacher, but that person you might only see a certain amount of times per year. So yeah, I think it was great that you kept with the profession, right? And you might have changed schools a lot of times in your first several years, but the fact that a principal was able to see that in you and have that show that you have that leadership potential, that's kind of what kept you going, correct?
Right, absolutely. That and the connection with the students, like, because in my mind, like those first 3 years, I had the backup plan. I was just like, okay, I'm leaving. This is what I'm going to do next.
Mm-hmm.
But I could never, I could never execute on it because I was just like, these kids, these relationships, they really kept me there. So, um, yeah. So I would say the relationships with the students as well.
Hmm. Yeah, and you told me that when you were in that fourth school, that your kids um, basically became co-owners of the learning with you.
Yes, yes. When I was allowed to take more risks as an educator,
Uh-huh.
then I started to learn more about different practices and try things out. And my students went on this journey with me, and we became co-learners together. There were several things that we would learn that I might not have been the most familiar with, but I'd tell the students, hey, this is something new I learned about. Would you all be willing to give it a shot and maybe figure it out together? And they were just like, absolutely. And eventually, towards the end of my time in the classroom, there was a figure it out Friday is what I would implement. And the students and we would kind of figure something out that interested all of us. So I mean, whether it was hoverboards or drones or
Mhm.
things of that nature, and just kind of learning together. That was a very rewarding experience.
Mhm. Yeah, I like how you took that time to kind of explore students' wishes and figure out, what do they want to learn more about, and kind of deviating from the curriculum. But a lot of educators, they think, oh, well, I can't take that time, right? We need to stick to the curriculum. But you build great relationships with students when you're helping them learn more about those things that they're interested in. So,
Right.
how has that led you in your current position and current role of how you're developing professional development and deciding on the needs for learners of those professional development needs?
Absolutely. Well, the team I was talking about that I met at my fourth school, the district technology team, they have played such an influential role in just my development as an educator.
Hmm.
And I was really honored to be able to join that team back in 2015. So this is now, oh my gosh, time is flying. So this is now almost year 5 with them.
Hmm.
And, there has been such I would say in 2020, in school year 2019, 2020, we didn't know what we were going to be dealing with at the very beginning of this.
Yeah.
I know that we had the theme of voice and choice for all learners, be they our pre-K 12 students or our adults as learners, and just voice and choice. And that really came into play. I would say when this pandemic hit almost out of nowhere, it felt like at the end of this past school year. And as a result of that, then we have just been, kind of redeveloping more modules when it comes to professional learning,
Hmm.
and allowing for that voice and choice. I am so honored to be on this team of innovative individuals. But I remember at the end of the school year, then there were different sessions that our teachers could participate in, ranging from like Flipgrid. We did flip hunts. We did. There was a Bitmoji session that a sub team did in our team, and just these different thinking outside of the box
Hmm.
opportunities for the educators in our district, and that will hopefully translate into the classroom practice in this upcoming school year. So we're continuing to roll these different modules out, as the school year is upon us now. So yeah, we'll definitely see what happens and see see what lies ahead.
And are those PD opportunities that the staff can then access at their own leisure?
Yeah, absolutely. So they are a mix of live webinars, and
Hmm.
then once the webinar is concluded, then we put it on our website, and then the staff can kind of go in and take a look at it. So that has been really exciting to be part of and to see that roll out. So I'm just like right now, even though the circumstances aren't ideal with the pandemic upon us, I've been truly inspired to see all of the growth and the educators in our district, and
Yeah.
even looking beyond my role, just
Mhm.
seeing educators in general in our field, in the country, in the world, just kind of come together and work together and rise to this challenge, and just do what's best for all students.
Yeah, no, I think that's great how, I mean, people are kind of forced into like learning about teaching online and using curricular resources online when some of them might not have been comfortable with it, but teachers did step up to the plate and immerse themselves in what districts and other organizations had to offer. And that kind of makes me think about how I did a session for Sydney in June, which was finding your PD niche. Kind of, there's so many things out there now since the pandemic started for educators to learn about, but kind of developing that professional development plan and developing your goals for the year and figuring out what maybe you inside your team needs in terms of maybe a book club study or social emotional learning, trauma informed practices, kind of narrowing it down that way. So because there's so much to choose from, and I think for you with the edutech um, field,
Mhm.
there's a lot of things that we learn about, and then actually putting it in practice sometimes it's harder. So I hope that everybody has support from the district, such as your team, where they can actually get some help if they're not quite sure how to use those tools.
Right, absolutely. That's so important.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about Edumatch and what you all do to support educators, and how that came about in just finding the organization and connecting those educators globally.
Yeah, absolutely. So Edumatch is a grassroots organization. It kind of came together just in a snap one day in 2014.
Mhm.
So the story goes, I was on Voxer with one of my friends who used to work in math at a district
Mhm.
level, and she was telling me about something that she wanted to use with the teacher in her district about gamification in math using fantasy sports. So I had just literally had this conversation with my cousin in Haiti like the month prior. And he used to teach math in New York City, and he had a book on gamifying, through fantasy sports. So he gave me this book. And so when she brought this up just out of the blue, then I was just like, whoa, the two of you need to get together and have a conversation. And then we should also pull in, this other friend of ours who's really big on gamification. And then at that point, I was just like, wait a minute, is there something out there that will do this? Like introduce
Uh-huh.
person A to person B to person C. And I looked, I couldn't find anything. I found Twitter chats, which are awesome, but that's kind of more so reliant on the people to connect themselves.
Yeah.
So that's when I signed up. I created a separate Twitter account called Edumatch. I created a really ugly logo in Google Draw, and I tweeted out like what I wanted to do with it. Right away, somebody from Australia responded. He was just like, "Yeah, I'd be game to try it out." So I was just like, "Okay, tell me a little bit about you." He gave me a paragraph, so I broke it down into sentences and tweeted out a sentence with hashtags every maybe 4 hours or so
Hmm.
about him. And then at the end of the day, I was just like, okay, how did it go? And he just like, wow, I connected with like 20 people. You should keep it going. I was just like,
Yeah.
cool. So at that point, I set up a Google form to make it a little more organized, set up a website. And then as people joined, they brought their ideas. So I should say by the end of about a month, we had about 100 people signed up. And then, from there, people just brought their ideas and we would try them out. We got a Voxer group going, a Twitter chat, as well as a video panel type podcast thing going on. In addition, we started doing book publishing back in 2016. So we're about to have our fifth annual anthology, and that evolved into people doing solo books. We also started a nonprofit, so that's in a soft launch phase, and that supports the work of teachers and students.
Hmm.
And our latest thing is that we're rolling out courses. So we have one flagship course and two mini courses at the time of this recording, but we're currently adding to that. So really, Edumatch, like at one point somebody asked me, like, why are you, like, what's driving it? And
Mm-hmm.
really, it's what I wish I had
Yeah.
those first few years when I was in the trenches. I wish I had that network. Because I mean, we literally talk on Voxer like every day. There's a group that started in 2014 that's still going strong.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a second group that started up a little after, and it's a little bit more quiet, but it's still good stuff. I saw that there's some recent activity in there as well. So it is it's really been beneficial to me as a learner. And I'm just super excited to see the connections that people make. And I'm just honored and thankful for the community to having built it up to what it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, it all came with you having that idea to match people, and now it's become this huge community with the nonprofit and book publishing, and it's really evolved over the last 6 years.
Thank you so much.
So, I think, a lot of educators who might not be aware of how they can find other educators that are maybe looking for materials to teach a certain type of lesson, this would be a great resource for them to go to,
Oh yeah,
if
thank
they're
you.
not aware of Edumatch. So,
Yeah.
out of everything we talked today on the podcast, what's one thing in particular you'd like listeners to remember?
I would say probably the one thing that I wish I knew when I first started teaching and I found myself in those trenches is to build your network, build it early. And I've heard a lot of friends say, build it before you need it,
Mhm.
and definitely cultivate those relationships, go beyond just the surface level conversations and really get to know people. Like you may not ever meet them face to face, but
Yeah,
just getting to know them as people. And I mean, that's just so rewarding, to be able to make new friends, but also super important because there's so many issues that our students are dealing with. And a lot of times people have their staunch opinions that they're rooted in, but
yeah,
when we get to know one another, then and we get to see where people are coming from when maybe they disagree with us, then we get to understand a little more why and see if there might be a point behind what they're saying, even if they are coming from the exact opposite side that we are. So getting to know a 360 view of the person would be my recommendation.
mm-hmm. That goes a long way, as you said, to be open to other people's opinion and realize that they might have a reason for their opinion, but we've all traveled a different road leading us to where we are now, and we can learn from each other. So yeah, I think that's great for people to remember. Where can people find you and maybe get some help via Edumatch and maybe become more involved in that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So me personally, I'm everywhere. Sarah the teacher, SarahDateechur. So just kind of spelled out phonetically. Edumatch is at edumatch.org, and there's like a database on there where people can go and find someone who might, they might be looking for a particular type of connection. So that's one feature of it under the databases tab. We also have edumatchpublishing.com where you can check out all of our titles, as well as edumatchcourses.com and edumatchfoundation.org. So those are all the different places where to find us. And we also have a presence on most major social media.
Well, thank you so much for being on the Out of the Trenches podcast. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Dana. You too.